If you think that you're going to hire somebody in that role that can handle SEO, website development, PPC, paid social, email campaigns, white papers, blog content generation, video production, all that good stuff, if you're going to find that person for $60,000 a year, you will not. If you're anywhere between 8 and 15% of your revenue, how do you allocate it to the channels? I think one of the things that most service businesses need to think about when they're trying to make sense, like, do I get an agency involved? Do you want to risk $4,000 to $5,000 a month on that?
Chris, welcome to eCoffee with Experts.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
It is great to be here. It's a Friday. It's beautiful. Things are changing in SEO like crazy. People are looking how to drive leads, drive conversions. The number one metric that I've heard is sales. We always want to drive things back to sales and driving clients for our clients. What sort of metrics are you looking at aside from sales and revenue that are important in this new age of SEO?
Yeah, for me, I mean, sales is always where it's going to come down to, but revenue and average revenue per sale, driving that and making sure that you're capturing those opportunities. I do think leads is a right metric, and it's going to help identify the gap between having a marketing problem or a sales department problem, because they're different parts of the funnel. And so if you're getting leads and they're the right leads, then that is a KPI to measure. And then, if you're not converting them, that's when you have a sales problem, and you go into actually defining sales and what's the average ticket or invoice or, treatment value of that sale. And then retention. Retention is such a huge one. I think, especially right now, it's kind of part of that retention flywheel, rebooking, reviewing, so I think those are your ability to maximize all of those are really important, especially this year and next.
Yeah. And you mentioned retention and rebooking. So for the audience, Chris has a background not only in SEO, which is now shaping to answer engine optimization and generative engine optimization, but you were actually an operator in a med spa business, and that narrowed your focus for digital marketing. Are there any big differences for med spas as opposed to other service-based businesses?
I think some of the fundamentals are going to be consistent. If you have a location-based business or a service location-based business, then you're, of course, going to want to make sure that your SEO and your local SEO is on point. Your website functionality is a pretty important thing there. Getting the ability to schedule embedded in that, and making sure people now are looking. Trust has always been a really big indicator for a med spa. People that are thinking about having you stick a needle in their face or take a layer of your skin off, they kind of want to know who you are and that they're going to get good results and trust you, right? Mm-hmm. So having the content out there, the imagery, the visuals, the videos, the testimonials are super important, not just to the user, but also to, it's my belief that the LLMs or the AIs are going to be looking really heavily at brand authority and looking at the social platforms as well as the search engines for that. But the trust indicators, do you have a whole bunch of before and after galleries that are tagged properly and itemized properly? Do you have your schema that actually says, yes, I have reviews and what they are and what they say, and Q&As and what they are and what they say? I think those things are going to play a really big impact. And I think they're even more important in the medical aesthetics and, getting that visual, showing those trust signals, the imagery, I think is going to be super important for them.
And we can take that out into other businesses that maybe don't have a physical before and after, in saying like, okay, I can help your business grow if I'm just a marketing agency and I'm attracting any other, like a SaaS product or, a coaching program or anything like that. We can still have before and after photos. How is it that you optimize those for LLMs?
Yeah, the photos themselves. Yeah, because you're right. Any service-based business, you're going to have a before and an after, right? You're going to have before we started working together and after we started working together. So optimizing those I think you're going to optimize the photos pretty much the same way you would really optimize them for SEO as far as the imagery and the videos. Just making sure that you have your proper alt text, that you're using the proper file name structure, that if you have the opportunity to make sure that they're sized correctly for the site, and not letting a container resize them. I think the things like that in the SEO are going to lend well. But then making sure that, again, if you have a video or you have images on there and you have the right schema on there, I think that's really going to help the LLMs crawl and understand what they are a little better and leverage them in when my verbiage for it is recommended by AI. That's, how to get recommended by AI, because that's what I think that's where it's going. And so, all those different signals to get recommended I think those are going to be big parts of it.
When a lot of the times we're talking about user generated content or founder led brands, which could involve social media, could involve exactly organic social. What's your take on someone who is leading or who is a founder led brand? What's the best strategy for them to step ahead and win in this AEO GEO space?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think it comes down to all the things that we know already, which is be everywhere all the time.
Hmm.
I mean, really, I think from a founder-led brand, if you're going to have a founder and you're going to have a face of the brand,
Hmm.
somebody
Hmm.
out there, then you have to almost think of that person as a media structure as opposed to an operator.
Mm.
Where they're the media generation. I know business leaders out there where they are the face of their brand and they spend more time recording videos, writing content, writing blog posts, e-papers on social media, pushing stuff out there. It's almost like their job really is being the celebrity
Ah,
and dedicating to that. Now, having one of the things that is I've always found to be true is that CEOs typically start there, right? They're the visionary. They have the great idea that started this whole thing. And if they were smart and efficient, then in short order, they got a builder and they got onto a good program like a level 10 program, or an EOS system. And they had the people in there around there doing, right? While they were having these genius ideas and these brainstorms and then
mhm.
communicating it. And now they go out there and they talk to their audience on all these different channels and they put this great content out there. But they do need a marketing manager and like a video producer. And like they
Yeah.
need somebody to give them structure and put rails on that lane before they just go
Mm.
bouncing out of there. So I think that it's definitely doable from a brand, point and having a face of it, but it needs some guidance and structure. And so making sure you put resources in place to kind of guide and shape that are going to be
Yeah,
really,
yeah, which could come from an internal SEO manager, it could come from an agency partner, right? It
yep.
can come from any variety of white label services that you wanna employ. You
Yeah.
have a unique perspective of being an operator and a practice manager for a med spa, and now on the other side, being able to, help with a, SEO strategy and all kinds of marketing strategies specifically for these. If
Yeah.
I'm working at a med spa or a service-based business with a physical location as an SEO manager or as a marketing director, what questions am I going to be asking an agency to signal to me that I should be trusting them?
Well, that's a great question. I would, if it were me back in the practice,
Hmm.
if I was back in the practice, then, and when I talk to marketing agencies, I think it would be a lot about the KPIs, not about vanity metrics. When people start talking to me about impressions and
Mm,
likes, they don't pay the bills. I mean,
yeah.
that's not revenue generation. And so and if anybody ever says, "Oh, we'll boost a post for you occasionally," it's almost a red flag at that point. Like I just
Yeah.
thank you for your time. That's not a strategy. So I think the thing is more than the KPIs should really turn into verified, confirmed sales, patient appointments, and what the show rate of that is. So are you getting appointments scheduled? Sure. Are they showing up? There's a big one. So what's your show rate? What's your average revenue? And what's your net? Like you can generate a whole bunch of appointments that actually show up and they can pay. But if they're coming in on like a Groupon discount. This is one thing that so many med spas hate right now is the Groupon mentality, right? People
Oh.
are like, Groupon for Botox Groupon, right? And
Uh-huh.
and so they come in, and Botox is kind of like the gateway drug for med spas. So, but
Nice.
they come
Nice.
in and they want these super cheap rates. Well, if they come in and it's only a Groupon type thing, they come in and you basically made nothing on
Yeah.
that treatment. Was it worth all that effort? Like even your cost per acquisition eats into your actual profits at that point in time. So it might not make sense. So just really looking at your numbers. The other thing that I get asked about like all the time by med spas, people will ask me this, like, what should my marketing budget be? And everybody can go and look and, pull up a Warren Buffett chat GPT or what, and just say like, how do I structure this and get some percentages? And that's cool. So if you're anywhere between 8 and 15% of your revenue, right? Or even five, if you're in the growth stages and you're in or scaled already,
Mhm.
and you're trying to figure out how do you allocate it to the channels,
Mm,
right? And
mm.
it's so frustrating it's like the F word of the internet is frustration, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So so many people are like, "Yeah, okay, but how much should I spend on PPC versus SEO
Mhm.
versus, content creation versus
Mhm.
social, organic social, paid social, database reactivation? How do I allocate review management? How do I allocate these expenses within this budget. And that is a conversation that often, changes based
Hmm.
on every exact practice. How many competitors do you have? How big's the area? I actually spent like a week messing around and building a calculator that would break that down, putting in those type of things. It was kind of cool. I'll share it with you sometime.
Yeah,
See,
yeah. I'm wondering if you use ChatGPT 5 because it can do some of that crazier,
I
development work.
have I have used GPT-5. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I didn't use it to build this. This one was we built it inside of our website and just used a whole bunch of query tables.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So, but it does kind of make those shifts and allows you to do some things. So that's been a tool that's been really helpful when I'm talking to these med spas about just, how do you manage all of that? And it really is unique. Every business out there, including me, hates to hear a non-answer, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, well, what's this going to cost me? Well,
It
it depends,
depends.
right? And it does depend.
Yeah, of course.
It does. It does. But there are some guidelines and frameworks. And I think that's what I've been trying to work actively towards pulling back the curtain on.
Mm,
And, just like, okay, it does depend. But if I get you within a $500 range, does that get you like, okay, I can't afford this? That's nothing. I'll start tomorrow. Or
yeah.
somewhere in the middle, like, okay, this might make sense. Let's talk a little bit more.
Hmm.
So getting that kind of information out there and removing that frustration for these med spa owners, I think is going to be really helpful. They're just as busy as we are.
Hmm.
And, they're trying to treat patients. They're trying to change lives.
Hmm.
They don't want to do this. So if we can make it make sense and put it out there for them, then and just kind of issue some clarity and give them clean reporting that's not BS.
Clean reporting.
That's the best thing that I hear from my clients. Just like, this is clean reporting. It's not BS. It's things that I need to know. I need to know.
Hmm.
I need to know them now. I don't need to like have more about it and that I can access them easily. I
Hmm.
find that's really helpful.
Yeah, because you're proving ROI as an agency, knowing who the client is, med spas, right? Let's just expand it to reach a wider audience. Service-based businesses with a location
Sure.
could be focused on aesthetics, right?
Yeah.
They're not the technical marketing people. That's why they would outsource to someone like Fanet, right? So when it comes to reporting and giving clean data back to the business owner, I'm curious about two things. One, are you using something like agency analytics to show that reporting cleanly?
Yep.
And then the second thing is what's your cadence for touching base with a client? Because we all know like SEO is a long-term game. Usually in the
Sure.
first 30, 60, 90 days, like communication and the way that they feel is going to be more important than the results because maybe they're not there. So what's your
Yeah.
what's your cadence?
Yeah, absolutely. We use agency analytics.
Okay.
And I was reading another discussion on it earlier today out in the world, and in the Tales from the Wild,
Mm,
where agency analytics is a costly or platform for the
mhm,
reporting tools. A lot of people like Data Studio, and we tried building it out too, but things just break so often and all the different integrations. Agency Analytics does a good job of getting everything there and giving us customizable dashboards. Not
mhm,
sure I'm closed on the new UX that rolled out this week, but
mm,
it's a work in progress. But I do think it gives us the opportunity to put exactly what they want to see in one screen, and then we give them access. We tell them how to log in. So and one of the things that I say often in the sales process is just I'm a huge fan of trust but verify. So you get access to my project management, they get access to, and this is all clients, Fanet clients and the generalist side, med
mhm,
spa agency clients and the aesthetic side, everybody gets it. So they get access to project management, they can see what got done by whom and when,
mm,
and they can see the results in agency analytics. So it's really transparent. As far as the cadence of how we connect with them and report, of course, we're always available, like we field the odd email or phone call every day.
mhm,
But
right.
we, more often than not, we will schedule a monthly call where we spend an hour, we go through everything, we talk about what got done just for accountability. Like
Mhm,
this is what we owe you and this is what we did. And then the results and impact. Then we like to do what we call closing the loop. I think this is so important that a lot of marketing agencies miss. If we're generating leads and we go into agency analytics and we're like, hey, we got, 100 form fills this week. That's great. That's awesome. We crushed it. Well, if they were all garbage leads, they were the wrong audience, but nobody tells
mm,
us that. We can't know to adjust our messaging. So
mm,
that feedback from the owner side is like, yeah, we had 100 leads. The phone blew up. It drove us nuts. None of them actually wanted to come in. They didn't show, they didn't, treat like, okay, now we know that. Now we can do something with that. But
mm,
if we're just over here like, oh, we're living our best life, we're getting huge results, we're winning. And we don't know that we're losing unless you tell us. So
mm.
unless our clients tell us. So that close the loop part and really getting that feedback on what's happening, how many of them actually showed up, how many
Mhm.
of them spent money,
Mhm.
what was the value of those visits or jobs, tickets, treatments, whatever they might be. What was the value? And, did you win? Was it,
Mhm.
was it in your target market? Were they your ideal client? And when we get that feedback, then we can continue to adjust that messaging. That's when we start really getting traction and starting to sprint as opposed to, just kind of walking along, hoping for the best, getting that feedback. So monthly cadences for reports. Some of our larger clients will meet every 2 weeks. And some of the clients that want to be more hands off and go with just a long-term SEO, very slow burn. Maybe they've got some resources internally already. Maybe they have like a great social person in house.
Mhm.
And if that's the case, then, occasionally we'll just do like some automated reporting with like, quarterly meetings or something like that. But our preferred cadence is monthly.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was a
It's
long answer to a short question.
no, that's exactly what I was looking for. But you were saying we want that feedback from the owners. Is that hard to get?
Yes.
How do you do it?
Keep pushing them for it. So
Yeah.
actually, one of the things that I like to do right up front during onboarding,
Mhm.
I like to make sure to tell them exactly how the relationship's going to work. That we think of ourselves as a growth partner and that's how we want to function. But that requires accountability on all angles. So what's going to
Mm.
happen during these calls is we're going to come prepared to tell you what we've done, what we might not have done and why we didn't do it, and what the impact was. And you're going to come prepared to discuss the results that happened on your end. Was it a job that was booked? Did it show? Was a quote issued? Was a treatment or a job performed? What was the revenue? We're going to want to know those numbers. And so I'm accountable to you in this relationship to provide my part of this data, like to execute the job, to do a good job doing it, to get some results and drive those things. And then tell you that you're responsible for giving me the feedback. And if we can both agree that that is the path to having a really productive outcome to this, like we're not doing this for a good time. We're doing this to get results, right? We're going to try to move the needle.
Mhm.
So can we agree up front that we're going to hold each other accountable? We're going to have that conversation and operate like iron sharpens iron. And if one of us is a marshmallow, it's not going to work out so well for either of us.
Yeah,
So,
right.
and
You're gonna turn into s'mores.
when I put that in the
Yeah.
conversation in the onboarding, like this is how this is going to work. I'm accountable to you, but you need to be accountable to me and I'm going to call you out
Mm.
if you don't show up to this meeting with this information because we need it to do a good job,
Mhm. Mhm.
to do the best job we're capable of doing. And when I put that up front, it helps remove it a little bit. In the meetings, they'll show up like, "Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, man. It's been crazy. Like, it's business is good. It's crazy. I didn't have time to look at that." Okay. You want to reschedule?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when I ask them that once, they usually show up after, at least for
Yeah.
the next 3 times. And then I might have to do it again,
Yeah.
but you're like, no problem, man. I get it. Business is great. That's awesome. Feel like we're winning then. But do you want to reschedule so that we can actually do a good job and go through this properly and make sure that next quarter is the same? Because
Mm.
this is the circle, right? Of pain versus comfort, right?
Mhm.
It's the little things that you have to do, like show up with your numbers and give us feedback. When you're in pain, and you're like, my business is struggling. I don't know what to do. Like my revenue's going down. I might lose a provider. Whatever it is, you start coming up and you start doing everything. You pay attention to the little things and you execute quickly. And then you get to the comfort. Like everything's great. I am living large, man. Business is
Mhm.
good. You know what? I'm gonna go golf this morning. I'm gonna take that extra trip. I don't know. I'm just gonna come in at noon, right? And you stop doing those things, and then business starts going down and it's cyclical. It's I don't know how many examples of it we need to see, but I mean, Blockbuster laughed Netflix out of their boardroom.
Right. Yeah.
And what happens? So it's just that willingness to continue to do those things and execute. And if every once in a while, if you need a little pain to remind you,
Yeah.
then I would rather that pain come from a conversation with me just going, hey, show up with your data.
Yeah. Exactly.
And then we can shorten that loop.
Man, you're bringing up something. Onboarding for agencies is a notoriously difficult process. There's a lot that goes on, not only technically, but interpersonally, relationship wise. And I think some agency owners who are maybe a little bit more inexperienced, they shy away from being that direct and transparent up front because maybe they feel like they don't have the rapport, they don't have the trust necessarily. So they may be a bit more reserved to
Yeah.
call out an owner because they're afraid of losing the revenue. They're afraid they don't want to, drop the client in the first 30 days or whatever. But it sounds to me like what you're saying is being more direct, setting the standards high from the very beginning, and setting clear expectations of what the owner, how the owner plays a role in the process actually gives you a better shot as an agency of becoming the coveted partner of the business.
At Fanet, we have a saying like, we're the agency that cares like an owner,
Nice.
right? And we believe that because we're entrepreneurs helping entrepreneurs. That's what we want to be. That's who we want to serve.
Mm-hmm.
And as an owner, I want somebody that's going to help me grow. A yes person, somebody who shows me the average automated report,
Mm-hmm.
that's not going to help me really grow. That's me growing based on information that you give me that I have to filter through.
Mm-hmm.
But somebody that pushes, that's what I need. I
Yeah.
might not always love it, but I will always respect it. And I find that, in business, this isn't, like the backyard barbecue where I got to worry about insulting somebody's wings recipe. I mean, this is me preparing them to leave generational wealth behind.
Mm-hmm.
And that requires growth comes on the other side of conflict
Mm-hmm.
every time, always. So it can be healthy and amicable conflict, but it's
Mm-hmm.
still conflict. So I just find that we don't shy away from it. We're going to embrace it. We're going to just talk about it and actually doing like the vanguard of it and just saying right up front, like these are the expectations. Can we agree that this is going to serve us all best if we're willing to really wrap our arms around this and we come this way? And as a business owner, when you frame it that way, most of them love it. Like they really respect it. And they're like, yes, okay. Like you mean business. This is not like, this is a person, I'm talking to a person on a mission right now. And they
Mm-hmm.
like that intensity. I find that it works really, really well. And onboarding it can be so hard. Like you said, to your point, it can be.
Mm-hmm.
So in our process, we have a couple steps that we take to smooth it out. And so we have in our kickoff call where when we first start up, right, we'll send some automations, some expectations and stuff like that, some emails out to people like this is what you can expect. But in that kickoff call, we have our salesperson, our onboarding specialist, and their marketing strategist on that call.
Mm.
And the salesperson leads it initially
Hmm.
so that transition crosses over nicely. And we review the scope of services again.
Nice.
And so, because it's not always, we don't have like always in every case, good, better, best package. Like we might have a custom engineered strategy
Mm-hmm.
for this business. And so it might have different elements. Maybe they have, 1,000 5-star reviews. They don't need review management from us. They've got that figured out.
Sure.
What they need are these other elements. So we'll customize the strategy and the scope of services. And then we review it. And the salesperson will be basically telling the production team, even though the production team knows. Onboarding is drats, they know already. But
Yeah.
it's telling it. And then is that in alignment, Mr. Customer, with everything that you and I have discussed? Is there anything that you feel like I missed in instructing these guys to do? And that gets rid of any down the road. Well, they told me during sales and onboarding. No, they didn't.
Mm.
This is exactly what they said. Would you like me to
Yeah.
pull up the transcript and the recording? But it doesn't happen because they agreed. Like when you
Yeah.
cover it that quickly, the client agrees to everything. They might misremember some stuff down the road. Like, oh, I thought, no. But taking that exercise and walking through the scope, introducing everybody and laying out, and then also reviewing, like, here are the client's pain points. These are the things that we're trying to solve for. This is what the strategy is intended to do. So again, as the salesperson, now I'm coaching the production team in front of the new client
Mm.
and they get to see all that interaction. I find that it has elevated our onboarding experience and our retention is tremendous.
Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we're less than at any given time, we're less than a 3% churn rate. So
Wow.
from what we see from that and the results of that and having these intentional, I mean, yeah, results matter, but just right from the beginning with that, I think it's super helpful.
Yeah, because a business is looking more for a partner who, as an entrepreneur, they know that there are highs and lows. Everything is cyclical. So they want to know that through the lows, they're not going to have a partner that's going to BS them to their face.
Right.
Yeah. So they're,
Right.
yeah, they're more looking for that. That makes a lot of sense. I'm thinking in terms of, with everything being disrupted, AEO, GEO, et cetera, what sort of SEO fundamentals do you see still holding true no matter what kind of tech shifts or, whatever disruptions there are? What fundamentals do you see still moving the needle?
Yeah, that's funny that you said moving the needle because that's like my catch line.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think fundamentally, the site itself has to work well. right? And
Okay.
so assuming that you have the site unlock and your call to actions and all that, and your funnel is solid. From an SEO standpoint, search is not going away. Search still exists. And realistically, search is still like the basement for LLMs. Like they're still
Yeah.
crawling, they're sourcing Google.
Yeah.
So they're sourcing the websites, they're sourcing this information. So having things like a good, clean structure, having your brand authority, I really think that having a good backlink structure and plan is still important because I
Mm-hmm.
think they're using that validation as brand authority, and that's
Mm-hmm.
what's causing them to recommend. At least that's my content. That's
Yeah.
my belief. And so having all of your socials connected, having I think schema, structure, content, of course, being really revealing and answering questions at the right part, like very early in the content.
Mm.
And I do think that we need to embrace a little bit more of a transparent presentation of our content and the answers. What are the
Mm.
things that your customers, that your clients ask? Answer them fast.
Mm.
And I mean, while the LLM traffic is still a small percentage of most sites' traffic, zero click results have increased far
Mm-hmm.
more, which
Mm-hmm.
kind of means AI from, Gemini, right? Or so generative results or so AI overviews. So if that's the case and they're trying to find the place that's recommending it and giving the answer to the user as fast as possible that they can put that answer in their overview,
Mm-hmm.
that's what's going to get you on the page. And I think that's what's going to help you get recommended.
Mm-hmm.
The standard SEO stuff, yes. Link strategies, well structured content, informative, optimized images, videos, all those things. Make sure that you're linking to your socials. Absolutely. Schema, reviews on page, FAQs, I think are going to be really big. And I often see FAQs not included in schema.
Mm.
And I think that's a big miss. When that happens, FAQs and reviews not being in schema, I think having that there's going to be really impactful.
Man, there's a lot that goes into that. And I can see how if someone is, an entrepreneur in the aesthetic space or the med spa space, they
Yeah.
need help. Like they don't have the time nor the resources, and most of the time, the desire to understand what schema is. How do I go through my site, my 100 pages and restructure the content so it's not redundant? And,
Yeah.
so Google doesn't cannibalize my results. So it makes a lot of sense to work with an agency who is keeping up to date, always looking for the ROI, right? Because like an
Right.
internal team may or may not be more expensive in the long term. I mean, I don't know. It just depends on the ROI. But I think to your point, like someone who knows that and is going to act as a partner that can manage themselves is incredibly important, especially with things moving so fast today.
Yeah, I think one of the things that most service businesses need to think about when they're trying to make sense, like, do I get an agency involved? And I get it. There's a risk there. You might come across there are bad agencies. There's great agencies. There's a lot of great agencies, but there are some that are, maybe
Yeah.
not so hot. So do you want to risk $4,000 to $5,000 a month on that? If you're a US based business and you're going to hire somebody, if you think that you're going to hire somebody in that role that can handle SEO, site development, PPC, paid social, email campaigns, white papers, blog content generation, video production, all that good stuff. If you're going to find that person for $60,000 a year, you will not. I'm
Yeah.
just going to share with you now. You're not going to find them. If you find them, it's going to suck. And
Yep.
you're going to wind up in a year letting them go, feeling bad about how you had to fire somebody who you just wasted 60 grand on.
Mm.
So having a specialist that can be a fractional specialist for you, that's what an agency really does. They
Mm-hmm.
assemble fractional specialists that come into your business and look at that business and say, okay, I'm going to run the best SEO campaign or the best PPC campaign. And we get a team and you get
Mm-hmm.
that fractional team assembled. And that's where the value really comes up. And it surprises me how often I hear people, or businesses talk about, oh, man, I don't know, like a $4,000 budget,
Yeah. What?
including ad spend. I
Yeah.
don't know. Okay. And sometimes what I'll do is break it down. These are the jobs.
Mm-hmm.
This is what it takes to execute this well. So let's look at it together. What do you think we could hire 6 people who specialize in these things and we'll do a good job that's worth the money.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's think about your HR and your payroll tax and all those other things. Like, does it really make sense?
Adds up quick.
Yeah, is so fast. And
Yeah.
really, an agency is probably, in most cases, the most cost effective way until you're at a point in revenue where it makes sense to internalize it all and you can hire those people and have an
Mm-hmm.
assembled team. And we've scaled businesses to that point, where we got to the point and then they're like, listen, we're at a point now where we need to bring this in house.
Yeah.
You're at that point, you're at you get to 10, 15, 20 million in revenue. Yeah, it's probably time.
Yeah.
It probably is time.
And at that point, they may or may not be outside of your ICP range anyway. If an agency is saying I help growth stage, whatever med spas, or I help growth stage, when they hit that scale stage, it's like, okay, well, now you've graduated. Happy to be happy to have
Yeah.
had this relationship. And then yeah,
Yeah, there's
good
usually
point.
going to be once we get to the scale stage, or they're in those one percenters. A lot of times they'll start internalizing, but they can't internalize all of those segments at once. So
Mm,
we'll usually maintain a relationship with them. It might be that they're like really common is like, I'm going to do my own social media person.
mhm.
Cool. Great. We'll work with your PPC. We'll work with your SEO. We'll continue to support your website. Like that makes perfect sense, right? And then over
Mhm.
time, that it might continue to shift, but it usually isn't like a radical dramatic because literally they have to hire 5 people to do what an agency can bring.
Yeah. Yeah. And a big part of that on the agency side is having strong partnerships on the agency side. A lot of the agencies that I talk to, they have a limited amount of onshore people, which are typically the strategists or the people who are, higher up, client facing. And then a lot of the work is done by very capable people that are offshore. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of, we're providing opportunities globally, which is why I am so excited about agencies and have continued to stay in the agency space. So, man, it's a lot of fun. There's a lot of things that are moving and shaking and changing for the better or the worse, depending on your perspective, right?
Yeah, that's 100% true. And all we can do is understand what is and what's coming
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
best that we can for what's coming, and then wrap our arms around it and sprint.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
digging in and putting our head in the sand is not going to help our clients, which ultimately is going to translate to not helping the agencies.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Chris, thank you so much for your time, your insight, both on the brand side and on the agency side. Is LinkedIn the best place to find you, or where should people contact you?
LinkedIn. I'm also on Facebook. I'm on Twitter. I'm pretty much in all the usual places.
Cool.
And you can also email me at just Chris at the Med Spa Agency is probably the fastest way to get to me.
Okay. Cool. Well, appreciate you coming on, Chris. See you next
Thanks so
time.
much for having me. What a great conversation. Appreciate you.
Cheers.